I'm here today with Dr. Frank Jordan, and on the next Vinson Voice, I have taken over out here at the VA hospital. This is his seat right here. It's kind of a big seat.
Kick me out of my seat.
Yeah, but on the next Vinson Voice, I'm turning the tables, and I'm going to be doing the interviewing with Dr. Frank Jordan here at the VA hospital. And what do you think about that?
Hey, you are the man. I'm not arguing with you. Any man that's that decisive and forceful, I got to go with it. So we'll do what you want to do, James.
We're going to talk about the history of the VA hospital. We're going to talk about the economic impact. We're going to be talking about some things I don't even want to talk about now because it will go on and on and on. And speaking of going on and on and on, I can go ahead and warn you ahead of time. It's not a 30-minute show.
No.
We busted the model.
When you and I start talking, I mean,
big mouth.
We just need to start putting a camera in my office when you come by. We'll just record on it.
That's a good idea. Well,
we'll just do
maybe it's a good idea.
Like a candid camera. Well, we have to edit a lot probably. But,
That's right. But it's all clean.
We can have coffee talk with James and Frank.
I love it. He has the best coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Always got the best coffee.
Oh, yeah.
So come by, have a cup of coffee. I better not say that because you'll be lying.
Come by and have a cup of coffee. We'll talk.
There you go. But let me tell you, we've got a great Vinson Voice coming up next, so make sure, log on our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, we'll notify you. But Vinson Voice, every week right here on TV 35 and on our YouTube channel, you can watch every one that's ever been made. If you've been on a Vinson Voice, go back and watch because we have featured Frank in the past several years, hero after hero, employees that serve this VA. We've interviewed so many people, and it's been fun, exciting, and I'm telling you, 2021, we've got the best yet to come.
Absolutely. No question about it.
Join us on our next Vinson Voice right here on TV 35. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to turn the tables today on Dr. Frank Jordan. You know, he's always doing Vinson Voice, been on here for years. And you and I were talking yesterday, Frank, and you go out in the community and people say, hey, I saw you on television. You that guy on television? You do that Vinson Voice?
Right.
And I can feel you there because I run in and we've shared stories on that. But it's so good, first of all, to turn the tables today, and I'm going to interview Dr. Jordan instead of him doing the interviewing. So
you may find out more than you want to know, James. Who knows?
Hey, we going to find out. So you need to stay with us, and we'll find out. But first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim.
Frank. I always enjoy talking to you privately, and I thought we'd do it on TV today.
Hey, why not? Let's track it for posterity, you know.
Let's start out. People watch you, they see you, and like I said, I understand that because I hear the same things in the community. TV's a powerful medium.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tell our viewers, who is Frank Jordan?
Oh wow, that's a long story. We got a half-hour show or an hour or
whatever you want.
We'll do
whatever.
So let me give you. I'll start with what most people start with, Brother James. We'll go. I'm originally in families from South Georgia around Waycross, and the other side in an area called Folkestone, and a little bit in North Florida. So I actually have done Ancestry.com and found out most of the families from Europe. Western Europe and Scandinavia, that kind of stuff. But we evidently have been around because we've got some Italian heritage in there and Spanish and you name it. And it's funny, I participated in a thing a few years ago called the Nat Geo DNA Project. And turns out I've got about 2.4% Neanderthal DNA.
Wow.
And so, you know, people have told me they thought I was a caveman. And
this was a loaded question.
It was a loaded question. I'm not fascinated by stuff like that. But then, anyway, ended up, my father came here to work for an organization called Mohawk Carpet back in the day. And I don't think Mohawk's out there anymore, Joe. But anyway, so ended up growing up, spent my formative years in Johnson County, outside of Wrightsville, between a little town called Scott and Johnson County, in the woods. Loved it. Good folks out there. Enjoyed growing up out there. Look, as I was telling you yesterday, got in a little bit of trouble, a little bit of a directionless child.
You was a troublemaker?
Troublemaker. That's just the way to put
How'd
it,
I
James.
know
Troublemaker.
that?
So, but ironically, I always wanted to be a police officer. That's the one thing I ever wanted to do. So I grew up on shows like Adam 12 and later Starsky and Hutch.
Oh,
A lot of people won't remember those shows, but I had a really, as bad as I was as a kid, I had a really positive image of police folks. So I wanted to be a cop. So I did that for a long time, 13 years at Dublin Police Department, left there as a sergeant. Came here to the VA and spent several years as the chief of police. And funny story, I always like to tell people, when I was a small child, we lived behind the VA briefly. And I was, like I said, I was into everything. So I ended up coming to the VA at some point, even though I was scared to death of the federal government. I didn't know what the federal government was. But anyway, came over here, got in some trouble. And some guy who claimed he was chief of police banned me for life from ever coming back to the VA. He said, don't you ever come back. Now, he was yelling this as I was running away because he couldn't catch me. But I tell people, one of the first acts I took as chief of police here was to rescind my own ban so I could be here legally. So I am legal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I figured it was the right thing to do.
So you went from running from the chief of police to becoming the chief of police.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
I point that out not just for the humor aspect, James. I want to, I believe one of the strengths of this great nation of ours is we give people second chances, third chances. As long as you're willing to work with us and show some motivation to be a different kind of person, we'll work with you. And I think that's one of the things I love about this country. We don't hold a grudge. You get straightened out, we're going to help you straighten out. And I tell people, so I used to teach criminal justice classes at Georgia Military College and Middle Georgia State University. And I actually, as you know, a couple of years ago, I went to Homeland Security to teach at their Leadership Institute. And I even told these stories there. But the point was that there can be a new day. Every day is a chance for a new day in your life.
That's right.
And you can be a different person. You need to learn from your experiences. I call it failing forward. You need to take those mistakes you make, learn from them, and move on with your life instead of dwelling in all that negativity. So I'm a classic example of what's possible, I think.
Hey, I was the black sheep of my family. Trust me, I know. But at some point, you do have to grow up, number one. Yeah. And you do deserve a second chance.
Sure, that's right.
And try not to make the same mistake over and over. But, me and you talked yesterday, on this side of heaven, we ain't perfect.
No
we're not perfect.
That's right.
So we're going to make mistakes.
That's right.
You shared with me, we were talking about the marshmallow effect.
Okay, yeah.
Talk about that.
So what a lot of people don't know is some folks have known me for many, many years. They remember the kind of a little bit of a wild cop that used to get into some craziness out there. But a lot of people don't know that I actually enjoy my hobby is really scholarship. I love to learn. Every day is a learning experience for me. And I love research. So I want to know what we've learned about this, that, and the other thing. And human behavior, obviously, is very interesting to me. So back in the 70s, a psychologist called Walter Mischel did an experiment they called the Marshmallow Experiment. And a lot of people will know this, and they actually have recently done some follow-up research to confirm some of this. And what Mischel did was he put little kids in a room, and he told them, he said, now you can have a marshmallow now, or if you'll wait 10 minutes, I'll give you another marshmallow, you can have two. So you can have one marshmallow, you can have two, it's all up to you, and you gotta wait 10 minutes. And he videotaped them, of course. And he was curious how many little kids would be able to wait that 10 minutes, because you know how impulsive kids are.
Oh, yeah.
So how many of them will wait for that second marshmallow? And he videoed them and he watched them. And of course, some were successful and got the second marshmallow, some weren't. But what was interesting was partly the tactics that the little kids that did wait took to delay eating that, because the marshmallow's sitting in front of them. They can eat it.
Delayed gratification.
Exactly, and that's exactly where that term came from, delayed gratification. He invented that. And he said, so the little kids would distract themselves, and they would hum and kick around and move just to ignore their marshmallows. So, but the more important, so there was a lot of value in the original experiment, but the big part of the experiment came in what's called a longitudinal study. He followed these kids through their lives, and it turned out the kids who were capable of delaying gratification were also generally more successful in life. They got the advanced degrees, they had good jobs, they were able to follow goals, set goals, and attain them. And unfortunately, some of the little kids that weren't were not capable. And what he was really getting down to is all about motivation. Yes. And it turns out, of course, that we need a certain amount of self-discipline, which we don't just pop out of the womb having. We have to develop it. And so that's why when I talk to people, I do a lot of mentoring here, and I have over the years taught a lot of different classes, a lot of subjects, but I always try to interweave, tell people, look, if someone else can learn to do it, you can learn to do it. And that's another reason I use myself as an example. I said, look, you hear my history and you wonder how a guy like me ends up being successful and turning his life around, well, you have to want to do it, and it starts with self-discipline. So that's kind of what the Marshmallow Test was about.
And you have a lot of books in your office, and you read a lot of motivational books and books on leadership and history books. But how important, I'm one of those, I've always been a very positive person. I was raised that way. But, I believe the old term garbage in, garbage out, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But why are those things important to you?
Well, because I look at everything from a practical perspective, James. I enjoy theory and we could talk all day long about speculating about different subjects, but in the end, I want to know how. There's an old saying, Yankee folks up north use, "Can you eat it?" That sounds cool, but can you eat it? Can I make something out of it? And so I always look for the practical effects. So when I talk about leadership and some of these other subjects, I immediately or very quickly get to the practical advantage for a student. This is what you can do with this. And for me, a positive attitude immediately translates into achievement. So, for example, one of my favorite ancient philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, famous Stoic, and he basically, which he derived it from other folks, he basically said that the way you perceive things is the way you will interact with life. If you have a positive attitude, then you're more likely to take a positive aspect when you deal with problems. And he's right. So if you start, I tell people that work for me, or about people that work for me, my default answer to a request is yes. Yeah. Up here.
Right.
If you want it, it's going to make you happy and gratify you in some way, I want you to have it. Now, there's the question of, is it legal, ethical, possible that I've got to go through? So I do all that in my mind, but I found a long time ago by starting with yes in my mind, that puts yes in my heart, and now guess what? Now I'm looking for how to do it, not if I can do it. I assume I can achieve something, and then I start, and ironically, of all the people I've read in my life, believe it or not, I used to really be into weight training, powerlifting, bodybuilding, the works. And one of the earliest books I read that really inspired me was by Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all people. He wrote or probably had it ghost wrote, but his thoughts were in it, a book called The Education of a Bodybuilder. So you would think it's all about his bodybuilding experience. It was, but he put a lot of his philosophy in there, his attitude. I'd never encountered anyone in my life to that point, I guess I was about 18, who had such a positive outlook on things. The way Arnold put it was, once I decide to do it, it's accomplished. Yeah. It's just a matter of gathering the details and getting the plan together. And to emphasize the point about failing forward, he was such a phenom when it came to weight training, bodybuilding. He won everything, every contest, number one. Well, then he goes to the first Mr. Universe contest and places second. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, it threw me for a loop basically for about 30 seconds. Yeah. He said, then I realized I got to stick with my game plan, which is now I got to come up with a plan. What were my deficiencies? Why didn't I get number one? And let me work on those things. And it turned out in that case, it was his calves. So he had to work on his calves. So it's self-awareness. You and I talked about it yesterday. And self-awareness is the first step to changing your life, folks. If you can't be honestly critical with yourself, without being so critical that you're indulging negative thoughts, you're not going to get what you want. You've got to be self-aware.
Yeah, and Zig Ziglar said, anything the mind can conceive, the body can achieve.
That's exactly right.
And we all have limitations. There's no doubt. You may not have the mental capacity or the physical capacity, but within reason, you can achieve just about anything.
Sure.
In our country, gives you those opportunities.
That's exactly
You couldn't live. You've been all over the world.
Oh, I literally Bangkok,
and I'm sure you're ready to come back home because we live in the best country in the world.
Jack, I love visiting. Like I said, when I went to Homeland Security, I literally went from Bangkok to Budapest and taught a class in El Salvador. Had the tremendous opportunity to teach a leadership class at Fort Sumter one time to some folks. And so, I love the travel. It was fantastic, but I always was like, okay, that was fun. Now let me go home.
Let's go
and
home.
Ended up coming back to Lawrence County, Georgia. Some people would say, well, you've been all these huge, wonderful places. Why Lawrence County? Well, it's a good place to live. There's good people here. It's nice, slow pace. I like hearing the birds. My wife and our favorite pastime is get out and drive dirt roads and take pictures on weekends.
We got plenty of them.
Yeah, we find we have 30 years together. We've yet to go driving and not find new places, old homesteads, and I always. You mentioned history, and I'm a huge history buff, and I always, when I see an old home or old building, I always contemplate who went through that building, who lived there, what did they experience, what were their lives like. To me, there are ghosts in those buildings. They're not the kind a lot of people think of. For me, they're the experience, the lives that were lived there. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
And we live in a great community. We live in a great country, but We're going to take a break and come back, and I want to drill down into the historical fact of where we actually are sitting right now.
Outstanding.
So stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Don Carswell. At Dublin Chevrolet, we're celebrating Christmas with employee pricing. And don't forget our second annual 12 Days of Christmas. For more details, go to mydublinchevrolet.com. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Dublin Chevrolet.
What makes C21 Durden Cornegay the #1 realty group in the area? First off, we sell more homes, and our team of agents works harder than any other realty brokerage. Buying or selling a home can be made easy with our professionals, so make the #1 choice in your real estate agent. Century 21 Durden and Cornegay Realty. For more information, log on to c21dublin.com or call us at 272-1535.
Welcome back, everybody. Continuing my conversation with Dr. Frank Jordan here at the VA, and I'm actually hosting Vinson Voice. This is great. If you just joined us, I kind of turned the tables on Dr. Jordan today, and
Took over my show.
Yeah, just took over. I'm bad about that.
I admire that.
I mean,
hey, man,
well,
go for what you want, James. Don't
You said you could do what you wanted to.
do what you want.
I took it literally.
I like people who make decisions. That was decisive. You just took the show.
Okay, we were talking history a while ago. Let's talk history. I did a show not long ago with the chief of police now, Chief McNeil, and we went all kind of places in this VA, all in the basement, and he took me places I'd never been in the VA. But talk about the history of, first of all, the VA, which dates back really to 1636. I did a little research on this. 1636 is basically where all of it started, but maybe not go back that far. But talk about the history first of the VA, and then I want you to talk about the history of the Carl Vinson VA.
Okay. Well, we had some form of Veterans Affairs even before we were a country, like you said, going back to the 17th century. So these were generally eleemosynary or charitable organizations, but they were quickly government subsidized for obvious reasons. Really started with the Revolutionary War. And so eventually the government, the federal government, state governments mostly, believe it or not, took the role, which is very interesting. But at some point, the federal government actually took an active role. And then around 1930 is when they actually formed the Veterans Administration, which is a formal, what we know now as the VA. And then in 1989, I believe it was, became a cabinet level position. So you got a Secretary of Veterans Affairs rather than just an administrator. And then you've got three, but you still have three administrations in the VA. The one I work for, which is the Veterans Health Administration, the National Cemetery Administration, and the Veterans Benefits Administration. And we try not to get into that with our veterans because they don't need to know all that. They just need to know VA, and they have needs, and we need to take care of them. But it is helpful sometimes. So with other constituents, we'll talk about it with people like you on a show like this or congressional offices, because it's important to understand that the Veterans Benefits Administration, those are the folks that determine if our veterans actually get benefits. And then, of course, the National Cemetery Administration speaks for itself. And they don't get a lot of attention, but I'm going to tell you, those are wonderful folks. They take their job very seriously. If you've never dealt with the NCA, they are, you would think it's the last point in a veteran's life, true enough, but those folks are dedicated to making those veterans, any interaction they have with a veteran, they want to make it as dignified and respectful as possible. Yeah, and then, of course, Veterans Health Administration, VHA, which is what the Carl Vinson VA Medical Center is part of, we are very serious about having a relationship with our veterans from before we even know who they are to the last days of their lives in our hospice care unit. But we're very much, so we want a relationship, not episodic care. But going back to Carl Vinson VA Medical Center, obviously it's named after Carl Vinson, longtime legislator. And a lot of people ask me, how in the world did you end up, because we were originally a Navy hospital.
That's right.
1941 they started construction, and people say, how in the world did you end up with a Navy hospital in Lawrence County, Georgia? Well, the official line that Congressman Vinson came up with was, well, we don't want a Navy hospital on the coast where our boys might get bombed. Let's bring it inland. The truth was, he went to President Roosevelt, and President Roosevelt owed Carl Vinson a lot because people don't know him, don't realize how powerful he was.
Yes, he was.
And Roosevelt said, what can I do for you? I owe you, what can I do for you? So, well, put me a Navy hospital in Lawrence County. And originally, it was going to be on the other side of Lawrence County. But he said, put me a Navy hospital there in Central Georgia. So they did.
That is so
and
good.
It worked out great for us because from 41 to 48, it was a Navy hospital. And actually, one of my favorite pictures, James, I have a picture of the sailors raising the national standard, the U.S. flag, for the very first time. In fact, I had a big copy blown up and hung up in our lobby. But then we took over the VA in 1948, and another interesting, when I went through the archive here, I used to be a communications director here. One of the first things I did was go through our archive because I'm a history buff. And I found an old menu their very first Christmas here with Navy Hospital, which was actually 1945 when they got patients here. But it lists all the good food they were having. And under dessert, it had something like plum pudding and cigarette.
What a combination.
What a combination, but that's the way they saw it back then.
Hey, but they took care of them. And you know, you mentioned a minute ago, back to what we said, nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in this VA hospital so much,
Mm-hmm.
and the patients are happy. People take care of, you know, you got people helping Charlene James, people like that.
That's right,
with
recreation.
and
That's right.
and all the way to the law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the
Police
chief
department.
and the officers, and you know, I was standing out there yesterday with 2 officers. Everybody walked by.
Right.
They had a conversation
That's
with.
right.
Good
That's
morning.
right.
Good morning. How are you doing? You need some help. What you know?
That's right.
So everybody's here to help. And you know, the VA, the federal government, a lot of times the people say, "Oh, them federal workers, they don't do nothing."
Mm-hmm.
I can attest. At this hospital, they do something.
Oh,
they
my
take
goodness,
care
yeah. That's right.
of our veterans, and they deserve it, Frank.
That's
You
right.
deserve it.
Thank you.
You know, they deserve it. But what a great story, the history of this.
I tell people, and another thing about the history, James, I tell people, history walks through these halls.
Amen.
It's not just the building, it's not just the
Yes.
art, it's not just the facts that I can enumerate for you, it is the veterans themselves.
Yes.
We have Dr. Lester Porter is one of our favorite
World War
veterans there,
II.
and you know, World War II, and he can remember invading Europe like it was yesterday. He can tell you
Yeah.
every detail. Dr. James J. Roy Rowland, good friend of ours, very famous congressman.
Yes.
He got his care here when it was still a Navy hospital first time, and those
So-
types of.
so
so
many.
these folks, these veterans in these hallways, did the things that we read about, watch movies about, talk about. They did these things. They actually went out and did this stuff, and it's every era that you can imagine.
They are the true heroes.
That's absolutely.
And
right.
I've said this to you a number of times. I've said it to David Widmer. I've said it to a lot of administrators. But we could write so many books.
Oh, sure.
I remember when Mr. Beasley was over here, I could go in his room and he would tell me stories,
right,
like you
that's
said,
right.
Dr. Porter. So many. I mean, we could write, oh my gosh.
That's right.
The
That's right.
books of true heroes,
That's
not
right.
Hollywood people, not politicians, but heroes.
So it's funny you mentioned Mr. Chandler Beasley, who, and of course his granddaughter Laura Miller works here. She's our head of pharmacy,
That's right.
brilliant manager. But so Mr. Chandler was here for a long time. We were a dear friend of mine, and I'm a history buff. So I talked to him. I did an article one time, talked to him about World War II and his experience in the Pacific, and he said, "Well, Frank, son, I got to tell you, I didn't have too much excitement over there." But he said, "Well, there was this one time." He said, I said, "Well, tell me about that." And he said, "Well, there was a couple of rough days there." And he starts telling me a story about a kamikaze plane diving onto the atoll where they were, and they didn't have their guns because they got in slack, and Japanese soldiers bailed out, and he started telling me all these stories, and I'm thinking, you know, that sounds pretty exciting to me.
That's
But
humility
so I wrote an
there.
article about it called "A Couple of Rough Days," which was a quote from him, and we put that out a few years back, and it was very popular. But he was something else. But it's just funny, some of the, you know, especially that generation, we call them the Great Generation.
Yeah.
They just did their job. They came back and had a life, and that's what Mr. Chandler did. He raised
Humble.
a family and
Humble man.
worked for the post office. Very humble man, and funny till the day he left us. You know. He
Yeah,
was just
this
funny.
one thing happened. I mean,
I
like,
do remember I'm thinking, if that had happened to me, I'd talk about it every day of the week.
yeah. But you're right.
Yeah.
They're a dying breed of people.
Yeah, they are.
That we can learn so much from.
That's
I
right.
mean, think about, and we have.
Yeah.
We have learned a lot. And shows like this,
That's right.
you can learn even more. And I know COVID's going on. We're in a different time, but when
That's right.
when this is behind us, if you're watching us, you have a youth group at church or whatever, young people, come out. These veterans, they want to talk, especially young people.
That's right.
They love to talk to you. And I can remember, I wish I could pull his name out. He was in a wheelchair, but I invited him I was out here visiting veterans one day, and I asked him, would he come speak to my men's group at church?
Right.
Oh, he lit up.
That's right.
And he said, well, you're going to have to pick me up. I can't drive.
Right.
I said, I wish I could say his name. I'm going to think of it in a little while. That's what age does, y'all.
Right.
But I come got him, took him, and he spoke to my men's group, and we were on the way back, and it was when the days were long, and the sun was going down, and I can remember it so vividly, and listening to him in the car tell me these stories. And,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, I am in the presence of an American hero.
Living history.
I
Living
mean,
history.
and
That's
when
right.
I walk down these halls, Frank, I stand in awe
That's right.
of just heroes.
That's
I mean,
right.
I can't say it enough. Who served our country just like you said, humble with humility, and it's just amazing. I mean, these people, come out and be a
Absolutely.
part of the VA. And I know COVID's going on; it'll be behind
COVID
us.
threw us a loop.
Yeah.
But for years when I was communications director, that was one of my top priorities, was to get everybody to come in here.
Yes.
Because when I was a kid, like I said, I kidded about getting in trouble a lot, but I was scared of the VA. I didn't know anything about federal government. And when I came to work here, I realized what a detriment that was to us on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
You need to know. I've met 90-something-year-old people that have passed the VA their whole lives and don't know what we do. And that shouldn't be that way. We're a member of the community. We're a vibrant member of this community. We want you involved with our veterans because, we take for granted sometimes our veterans, we can drive, we can go places. Some of our veterans just don't have that option. I mean, despite the best we can do for them to keep them entertained and help them enjoy their lives, we need the community's help with that. So if you got an idea,
Yes.
please reach out to us. Like James said, yeah, COVID's kind of throwing us for a loop, but hey, we've been innovative. We've also found there's a lot of ways to get where we want to go. So we've been using a lot of cyber modalities, using
right.
Facebook and iPads and stuff like that to communicate. We had some parades in our community living center and nursing homes where the families came by in cars and waved and honked and had a good time.
That's so good.
We can find a way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way,
Absolutely,
no doubt. So
absolutely.
we're going to take another break. We'll be back right after this.
When the power's out, you're out of business. But with natural gas, with the City of Dublin, when the power's out, you can still cook on your gas stove or shower with your gas hot water heater or even fire up the grill. Plus save money every single day because natural gas costs half the price of electricity and propane. Start saving today with the City of Dublin Natural Gas. Call Brad Grimes at 277-5048 and you'll never be out of business with natural gas.
Allen's Heating and Cooling is your licensed Amana equipment dealer. Trust Allen's Heating and Cooling to install and service your heating and cooling unit. Allen services all brands and with the purchase of a new Amana offers a lifetime compressor warranty. Call Sean Clark or any of his friendly staff at Allen's Heating and Cooling, your Amana dealer. Amana lasts and lasts and lasts.
Welcome back, everybody. We could do this show all day, there's no doubt, and we're going to go over our allotted time, I can tell you that, because I got some more. Once I got the tables turned, I got a lot of stuff I want Dr. Jordan to talk about. But next thing, I preach this sermon everywhere I go, and you know this, but the economic impact on this community. Without the VA hospital, y'all, Dublin would not exist like it is now.
Yeah.
We would not have the businesses, the restaurants, the subdivisions. We would not have a lot of the things we have without this VA hospital. But let's talk about the economic impact. How many employees? What's the payroll?
Okay.
And
Yeah, and I tell you, James, I like to talk about this with people, but I always point it out. It's just to make the point that we are a member of the community. We're a member of this Dublin Lawrence community, Middle Georgia, like the rest of you, and that's the only reason I point it out. But it is interesting how things have grown. When I came here in 2003, we had, I think it was exactly 747 employees. Now we have 1,850. I have, in my area alone, of patient care services, which includes nursing and some other things. There alone, we have 900 plus. So
Good.
just in my section, we've got more than total number of employees we had back in 2003. But it brings, every employee and every service that comes in brings a lot with it. So you're talking about a budget now that's in the $350 million range, I think, and again, what's important about that is not only does that show that this country is caring for America's heroes like they should, but also locally, as far as economic impact, it shows we're drawing people in. So it's not just the veterans that come visit us. It's everybody they bring with them. It's all the adjunct services they experience. They're going to our local restaurants. A lot of them are looking at Dublin and say, hey, this looks like a nice little town.
Move here, they buy cars, they buy
do.
furniture.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear too many stories. I mean, they come from 52 counties. We serve 52 counties. And also we have some satellite.
Oh, yeah. We have clinics. We have 6 clinics now. We're going to end up with 8. They're all over middle and south Georgia. We've got clinics ranging from Brunswick to Tifton to Macon. And we're constantly redoing those clinics too. We've got one in Milledgeville. We're constantly, every few years, we're upgrading, resizing to meet the need and keep up with America's heroes' needs. So,
And also, y'all partner with this community.
Yes. We need this community to say it's not just one of the, I tell people, I told you before, I like to look at the practical benefit of things. It's not just, hey, what a nice thing to do to get involved with your community. We need our community. And I mean Dublin, Orange County, and all of our other counties and beyond. We need to partner with them to get, because the whole goal is to get health care to our veterans. That's it. Whatever that takes, whether they get it here at the VA, whether we pay out to local medical folks or medical folks in middle and central Georgia to get that, whatever it takes, that's what we need. And it's amazing how so during the COVID example recently, James, we had to put employees up in local hotels because we had to have them here long shifts and for long days, and so we had to bring them from far-flung areas of our catchment so we could get them up here to work, nurses especially. And our folks did a wonderful job. They were very committed, still are. They're working some long hours, taking a lot of risk, but this is where they shine. I tell people, healthcare folks, several months back, had some upper respiratory issues, and my doctor said, look, I need you to, with this COVID thing, I need you to stay home and work from home if you can. I said, Doc, I can't do that. I'm in healthcare. So I'm in healthcare. This is where I'm supposed to get high, and go to work. And I understood the risk, but that's typical of what you see for our folks here at Carl Vinson. They'll look at you and I say, hey, I'll take the risk because this is what I'm paid to do. And our nurses especially, you just can't say enough about them. Our doctors, every day, we take for granted when we go to a doctor, it's kind of an episodic event in our minds. I went this morning. My doctor was wonderful. Dr. Waters over at the medical center. Shameless plug for you, Doc. Yeah. But anyway, but you gotta know these doctors and nurses and these other healthcare folks, it's all day, every day. That's what they do. And I'm proud to say that they don't say, hey, I want to stay home. They say, hey, it's time to go to work.
No, and they come from everywhere, Frank. I met the captain on the police department. He came from Montana.
Right.
These people are coming here and buying homes.
That's right.
I talked to another gentleman yesterday. He's on the police force and just got here. He just bought a new home out Holly Hills area.
There you go.
But that's what I mean by the economic impact, y'all. You just can't imagine in the billions of dollars since this place has been here. Billions with a B now. And also the resources y'all have. You're constantly having job fairs for veterans.
That's right.
I saw not long ago you had a food drive out here, and they were lined up. I don't know how far. It looked like miles, and I really don't know how far. But you have an app store. You do consumer affairs. You help with congressional things, helping people get benefits and things like that. So you wear many hats.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very similar to having been a police officer. I found early on as a police officer, James, that it wasn't, we say law enforcement. I don't really like that term, and I'll tell you why, because that's just part of what police folks do. It's really a service industry. We were called upon to do the things, people called us, and I used to tell my guys this when I was chief of police especially, people put their faith and their trust in us. They call us when they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. It's 3 a.m. and you got a bat in the house. Well, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So, they call that cop because they don't know. And, if you're honoring your profession, you do your best to help if you can. And I've literally done that. That's right. Well, it's the same way here at the VA. These people, we have, long ago, I don't know where it started. I do know that over years we've really emphasized it, that we have a commitment to not just our veterans, but our community. So if we can help, we do. So when we realized people were out of work and people were going hungry because of COVID and the devastation that caused economically, as well as the health impact, our chief of voluntary service, Keith Griffin, and a lot of people know Keith, He's first one.
Yes.
He's involved in this community, and he says,
is.
"I'm a member of this community. I'm going to help, and I
Yeah.
represent the VA." And he takes a lot of pride.
He is a good man.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
take a lot of pride in being in this community. So he said, "Hey, we can help. We can get some food together."
Yeah.
And we had a lot of volunteers that chipped in. That's what I tell people. It's all about connection, networks. It's not, networks. A lot of people think of networks when it comes to their career prospects. I want people to think of networks when it comes to their life prospects.
Yes.
You don't get anything done worthwhile as a human being without other folks. John Donne said back in the, I believe it was the 15th, 16th century, no man is an island, and I'll include women. No person is an island. The worthwhile things in life that happen because you do it with other people.
Amen.
And so that's why we see things. If we can help, we're going to help. And it doesn't matter if it's a quote-unquote VA responsibility. That's not important to us. It's a human responsibility.
Yes.
And Dave Whitmer, our director, will be the first to tell you. And I give all of our directors credit. They've always been like this, but Dave really believes that as a stakeholder in our community, we've got to stretch those boundaries. And Dave is kind of like me. He's going to ask for forgiveness after the fact. He'll figure out what his authority is and what he can legally and ethically do to help, and that's where he's going with it. And if he has to apologize later, he'll do that.
Yeah.
But he's always focused on what's right. And I think, again, going back to our previous conversation, when you do that, when you say, don't ask what you can do, ask what you should do. That's the way I look at
Amen.
things. What should I do in this
That's
circumstance?
Right. I say all the time, I need all the help I can get.
Right.
I need people to help.
right.
But David Whitmer, the administrator now, he has jumped in this. He's been here about 2 years now.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is at, we're at so many functions together. He's
Right.
at business after hours. He's at
Yeah.
First Friday, and he's at the meetings about.
He tries to be at everything, and it's not possible.
No, you can't be at everything.
He
but
tries, though.
He
He
does
wants to
a
be everywhere.
doggone
Yeah, he
good
does.
job, I'll tell you.
But now
that.
he's smart. He spreads the wealth too. So I mean, most of our directors again have been good about being involved in the community.
Right.
But Dave wants to. He doesn't want to let any opportunity to pass by for people to see VA management. So when he can't, he'll ask somebody else to go represent us.
right.
And again, our management, to their credit, they love to get out there and meet folks.
And I'll tell you, Frank Griffin, he's out there. And we could go on and on. We start calling names, and I run into Gus Albritton, and he's always talking about the VA. So many people make this wheel turn, because it's a big old wheel.
That's right.
That needs turning.
Right.
But
I'm so glad you mentioned Gus Albritton. I call him years ago. Named him our volunteer extraordinaire, and he thinks that's funny. But Gus has more time volunteering here than most of us have working here. And Gus is has been back to my chief of police days, my communications director days. I've done so many jobs here, and Gus has always found a way to be there and be helpful to me in this medical center. And he will drive hundreds of miles, and it's not just what he does for us during the week. I'll find out on a weekend he's driving, so he's going to drive to Arkansas to help a fellow veteran.
That's amazing.
He's taking a veteran here in South Georgia somewhere. He's just that kind of guy. He wants to be. He lives his talk, and that's a rare
wonderful.
He is
wonderful, wonderful. I put him up on the top of the totem pole.
Oh, absolutely,
there.
absolutely.
You talked a minute ago. You mentioned cemetery services.
Mm-hmm.
Talk just a minute about. I was at a funeral recently, and the two servicemen came with the flag and presented it to the family. Or y'all do presidential memorial certificates, things like that.
Correct.
Talk, families watching now. How does that work?
So it's good you brought that up, James, because again, that's National Cemetery Administration. However, the VA has, even here, we have in our what we call our Health Administration Service folks. When you have a veteran dies in your family, and you want to try to figure out what kind of benefits they are entitled to, you can start with our HAS folks. Keith Griffin used to work there. Matter of fact, again, it's not even his job anymore, but he refuses to turn somebody down if he can help. So they can kind of give you some guidance on that. There's some death benefits that most veterans get. And it will largely depend on when they were in the service, what they did while they were there, stuff like that. But the point I make to people is ask those questions. You've got, Congress has been generous to the VA and given us money we need to help our veterans. So let's not let that money go to waste or unused. Let's reach out when you have a veteran in your family. Now, we're talking about death benefits, James, but I want to talk to these veterans and their families who aren't getting their benefits now. I don't know how many veterans I get a call from a family member The veterans gotten elderly now. They probably can't care for themselves. We're trying to, don't wait, folks. Figure out what benefits you're entitled to now. We have the Georgia Department of Veteran Service. That's the Georgia State folks here. We give them space here for an office. They're glad to help you. They'll file for your benefits for you. You don't know sometimes what you're entitled to until you ask. So if you're a veteran, at least inquire what you might be entitled to and get that started right now. You may be so when I got out of the Navy, 25, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, James, I didn't ask about VA. I didn't care. Yeah. I'm taking on the world. Well, now I'm 56. The world's looking a little heavier sometimes.
Yes.
So now I'm inquiring about benefits, but don't wait. File for those benefits right now. Just go ask the question. And the VA has been really, really aggressive in making websites accessible and getting that information out there. And if you don't know who to ask, call us out here. We'll find some answers for you, or at least give you where we can direct you to. You can get those answers. So.
Just one more reason we're so appreciative that we have our VA hospital.
And we're glad to be here. I'm going to tell you something.
We are. You have heard a lot of these things, but the partnership we have, the community and the VA, it takes us all. It takes us all to make this happen.
That's exactly right.
We're going to take another break and come back and wrap things up. We'll be right back.
Stepping Stone Child Advocacy Center is a nonprofit organization serving the Dublin and Oconee Judicial Circuit. We provide confidential services to children and adults who have experienced child abuse or sexual assault. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to your crisis or need. When you take that step to report your abuse or assault, we will be here to help you navigate your way to hope and healing. You will be treated with kindness and respect as you receive services such as forensic interviews, medical exams, legal advocacy and support, as well as referrals to counseling. All of these services are provided to you free and confidential.
Portions of this program are brought to you by CurePoint Cancer Treatment, 2406 Bellevue Road in Dublin. At CurePoint Cancer Treatment, we're bringing you state-of-the-art cancer treatment right here at home. CurePoint Cancer Treatment. Check us out on Facebook.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to wrap things up with Dr. Frank Jordan here at the Carl Vinson VA Hospital. If you're just joining us, you can watch this show in its entirety on our YouTube channel at TV35 WDIG. Just type in TV35. Go and subscribe to the channel. That way we can notify you every time we post something. But all our programming, every Vinson voice we've ever done, you can go back and watch Dr. Jordan till you just sick of it.
I may have had a little hair back then, James. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, yeah, me and you, we go way back on that one now. But I have seen a picture of you with hair, so I can attest.
Yeah, I used to have hair. Had curly Greg Brady hair, actually.
Yes, that's right.
I've got a picture. It looks like Greg
Brady. That's right.
That's right.
So, well, we've talked about a lot of things today. Is there anything, as we wrap things up, we've talked about benefits. Is there anything that you want to cover? But any question, basically, DD 214s, getting ID cards, status of pending claims.
See, all of that, James, that's why I was saying before, online, it is easy. It's online. You can, if you need that DD 214, which is the document you need for your benefits, you can literally go online, put in a little basic information, and they will send you a copy of that DD 214. Check in your benefits. If you're in the system already, we've got a system called My Healthy Vet that you can track your test results, et cetera. It's fantastic. But you can also go on their e-benefits. Just quick, again, it takes a few minutes, build an account, file for your benefits, and you can track them and see what the latest is. But I want to switch it up just a little bit, James. I said this before, but I don't want to miss an opportunity, especially one like this, to say a sincere thank you, not only to our Dublin Lawrence community and all of our constituents in our catchment area, our congressional officers, our veterans service officers, the veterans and families themselves, but TV35 for years now. TV35 has given us a half hour every week to talk about anything we want to about VA. And there was a time when we were the only VA medical center in the entire system, coast to coast and beyond, that had their own piece of the media, a TV show. Because when we started this thing, James and Ron said, we're not going to tell you what to say. We're not going to editorialize or censor. You say whatever you want to say. And I can't tell you how honored we've been to have this show for the past several years. And And we're just so appreciative because it's been great to be able to get all this good information out to our veterans. And then we had talked about history before. I want to encourage everybody out there, James, don't look at history. So, I told you I was kind of a bad kid and didn't do real great in school when I was not focused. But one class I always did pretty well in was history, because to me history was story time.
I agree.
I never understood why people would have a problem with history. I get kind of the thing about the dates and stuff, but to me it's just story time. But the reason I emphasize history, it's the practical benefit of studying history, folks. We can avoid a lot of the unpleasantness we have to experience in life if we know our history of ourselves, our societies, of our groups, etc. History is not a subject. History is the subject. Go back and read. You'll be amazed the things we keep repeating as human beings because we don't honor our history. And again, when it comes to our veterans, it's even more important. These people lived it. These are the people that the movies are made about, the stories are told about. They lived this stuff. And again, like I said, history walks these halls at the Carl Vinson Medical Center. So if you got an idea for helping, entertain our veterans, show them a little appreciation and respect, please reach out to us, and we will be glad to get you out here in some way, some fashion.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother
Thank
James.
you for your service.
You too. Oh, thank you. And again, thank you, TV35. We appreciate you guys.
What a great partnership. That's what it's all about. Community working together. All of us, every one of you watching, no matter if you're in Soperton or Wrightsville or Eastman or wherever you're watching us at right now, it takes us all to make this happen. So if you're watching right now and you served our military, you served our country, thank you today for your service. And one thing Dr. Jordan said was we give them 30 minutes every week for Vinson Voice. Well, we blew that out of the water today because this was not a 30-minute show.
We're rebels, James. We do what we want.
We busted the model. So
hey, if Ron gives you a hard time, you tell him come talk to both of us.
That's exactly right.
We do what we want. We're rebels.
we didn't do 30 minutes today. But thank you so much for joining us today right here on TV35.